This video is sponsored by Gatecraft.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to our pop-up studio. I'm Alice Sharp.
And I'm Katie Taylor.
I know loads of people think about materials for play. And Katie, when I met Katie, I think just last year, did I just meet you last year, Katie?
Yeah, it's not been long, has it, since we've known each other? Seems like a lifetime.
It feels like a lifetime, I guess, because we've been social media buddies for a lot longer than a year. But we just met in person, and we were both passionate about materials. So we decided to talk about materials with you today.
Yeah, we're really excited. We've got some nice things to show you, haven't we?
We have indeed. So we're going to start with loose parts for toddlers. This is a guide craft kit. I've got one. Katie, yours is sitting beside you there nicely.
Yeah, come on.
I love the it's not just a block kit, it's everything. There's hundreds. So what do you think children will get out of it, Katie?
Well, when I first opened it up, I actually couldn't believe how lovely it was, and I was like a child opening it up. It was like Christmas, unwrapping them all. I just couldn't believe the lovely colours because I think they're acrylic, aren't they? And they're quite heavy, and I just think children are obviously drawn to colours. And there's lots of lovely colours in here, lots of different shapes, lots of different sizes, lots of different textures.
And I love
so
the
there's
fact,
lots to explore.
I love, Katie, the fact that it's not just a block. You know, there's these circles and there's these are like how a fly sees. I think it's 54 different parts, and that's what an eye sees, and that must be quite terrifying to be a fly. I think I love the making it playful is really important, isn't it? Because materials help us. Obviously, the Israel talks about the environment being the third teacher, and I often say we are the most important resource. But if you're in a room with 20 children, having other teachers, and these are intentionally thought about, I think there's loads of scientific thinking, there's loads of experimentation and predicting and testing that children can do as they pile them, as they build them. Even rolling these along the table is quite interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, there's lots of different ways you can use them, because obviously they can be stacked, they can be rolled, they can be put together. So the way that they're designed, they fit perfectly, don't they?
That is perfect, isn't it? And I love the fact that there's these flat shapes, circles and squares. And so that's telling me about solids, it's telling me about flat shapes, it's telling me about cylinders, about squares, rectangles, cuboids, you know, force and motion, everything. There's every mathematical and scientific property of these materials can be explored and experimented with the children when they use them, I think. And I love the fact that they are acrylic, as you said, they're quite heavy, aren't they? And so the density of that is helpful when they're doing problem solving or they're looking at cause and effect. Why does my tower keep falling over? But these are going to be quite secure and robust when they build towers, I think.
Yeah, I think obviously I love going outside and spending time in nature. And if you were to take these outside, the way that the light would hit these would be completely different to being indoors. I mean, the children can test and make predictions about actually what happens if I change the angle of this, how's the light going to hit different, what kind of shadows are going on the ground. So if you're not outside, get some torches, get some things, and just have a look at the way light plays with this. And then they can obviously make those predictions as a child and say, actually, I think this might happen.
And I think that because I love blocks and I love shapes and I love exploring 2D and 3D, you know, I love the fact that just this simple piece of equipment here can talk about corners, but this one doesn't have corners, it's got curves. So I love language. So the language of these materials and the maths and geometry that's in them is just huge. And you know, what about shape recognition, symmetry, patterns, there's all of that. Counting and number sense we could even do as well if we sort and match them. And I think what I love about it is that you're never finished if you take bits and pieces out of the kit. So I've got these two here. And so we've got half, we've got a semicircle, but we can create a circle. You know, and there's a half there. And in fact, I've got one pillar and two little pillars together. is two halves of that as well. So there's hundreds of mathematical thinking in the properties of each thing that comes out of the little kit. So it's so much more than just loose parts, I think.
Yeah, there are so many things to explore, aren't there? And obviously, it's not just mathematical concepts. They are loose parts. They can make pictures with them. They can turn them into all sorts. They can. This one is my mum. This one is my brother, and they can have a little bit of a role play situation.
Yes,
be anything, can't they?
story talking and narration is brilliant for their stories and bringing it to life, isn't it? The triangle could be a mountain, or it could be the roof of a house, or it could be a slope that I am skateboarding over. You never know what's going to come out of the children's heads. And imagination, there are 8 different types of imagination, and I just love that. So you talked about the light, and I guess, Casey, you're much more knowledgeable about outdoors than I am. And so the natural sunlight, I guess, compared to torchlight, or if you put them beside a projector, it would be so different with the shadows and the shapes that they would make.
Yeah, and I think obviously children will test their own predictions, and if they're looking at that sort of cylinder there and saying, actually, if I hold that up to the light, if you're looking at something normally from a reflection side of thing, a shadow, if I was stood in the way of the light, how it would block that light and make a shadow on the ground, but actually holding up something that's a different shape and having a look at that and how the light bends through that. They may never have seen that before outdoors. So.
Although we're not with children, you've just modelled something to me, and I'm thinking, can I see? I can see through this, so I can see, and I can see through that, but very differently. And then if I I can't see through this. Now they're all made of the same materials, but that's talking about transparency, translucency, opaqueness. Which ones can we see through and which ones can't we see, and why is that? So that's really deep and rich thinking that we're going to engage the children in.
Yeah, and it's something they just naturally wouldn't be exposed to if they don't take these things outside, because you can spend all your time outside in nature and test all of those sort of light scenarios, but something like this extends the possibilities, doesn't it?
Well,
just by having something.
Yeah, that's interesting, because obviously you live your life outside, and I grew up on the beach, so I love being outside as well, but I don't get the opportunity now. But so are you in the camp that you only use nature, or do you think these kind of resources outside?
Take resources outside and utilize everything that you've got, because if you're outside anyway, you're spending time in nature, you're using all of those neural connections that are at the front of that brain, and children will self-regulate outside. It will help the flexible thinking just by, actually, this is something different to what I'm used to. If they're used to spending all the time outside, but you introduce something different that they've not found outside, then that's a whole new way of thinking, isn't it?
And I think it's so curious. I'm kind of comparing in my hands here. The biggest organ in our skin is in our bodies, our skin, and you're manipulating and I'm manipulating them because they feel lovely to manipulate. And I think that kind of comparison of the shapes in my hands and my head is thinking about it at the same time is brilliant. And I don't think that loads of loose parts make me think about all of this that we're talking about. I mean, I love loose parts. I think there's a massive place for it, but I don't know that it would hit all of these properties that we're kind of talking about. And so, oh my goodness, even thinking about language, because I am absolutely smooth, they're hard, they're heavy, they're light, they're curved, they're transparent, they're shiny, they're colourful. I mean, there's hundreds of language that comes out of it.
Yeah, I thought even if you do take it, can be indoors or outdoors, but popping them into a tub of water or into some sand or some mud, and actually feeling the differences between what they feel like on their fingers and their sensors, and opening up all the different sensors there, and then they can easily be washed, can't they? You can just give them a little wipe and then they can go
hugely. And I wonder, you said put them in water. And some materials that we do have in the nursery do get ruined by that, but the acrylics and they change and become a bit abstract if the water is moving around them. And then if you put some colour in the water, I wonder, that there you go. That's one of the things that I can tower them, I can build them, I can talk about geometry and maths and do all sorts of stuff with them. But they're so durable that you can use them in mud or water or cover them in some like snow even when they're outside. So is it not fabulous then? So we're playing with these materials, and what obviously we don't matter in this bigger scheme of things. The children are the people, but I think that you and I talking about these materials is really important, and I think sometimes we don't get time to do that when we're playing it with children every day. So even if you take 2 minutes or 5 minutes to sit with a resource, to sit and think, actually, I need to think about the learning I want to draw out of this. Do you think that's important?
Yeah, absolutely. I think obviously when you're setting up your environment, it's crucial to think about actually what will the children get out of this, and something as open ended as this can provide so many opportunities that just by popping something out like this and thinking actually let's really hone in on what we're going to learn today, and
And I know that you and I are slightly older educators. I'm certainly much older than you, Katie, but the reality is that I think sometimes the youngsters feel a bit, or MD who is maturing, just entering our sector, feel a wee bit ill at ease when they're not really sure about the learning opportunities. And I think that means we have to take time. So I guess what we're thinking about, because you and I do it, and I know you do it probably more than me, is we play with our materials.
yeah.
We
Yeah.
explore and experiment with them, and that means that we start to understand the materials much more than we maybe do if it's just presented. So I would recommend this. Would you recommend this, Kerry?
I absolutely would recommend this. I love everything about it.
Yeah. So loose parts, it's safe for toddlers, and there's so much learning opportunity that can come out of this. So I hope that has been a helpful pop-up little studio about our materials. And Katie and I will see you on another day. So at the moment, goodbye for now.
Bye.